Hi, I'm Anthony F. Elmore in downtown Memphis on the mighty Mississippi River, bringing you another hot and fiery Black Memphis history lesson. If you are a black person living in Memphis and you're looking to learn Black Memphis history, there exists a culture in Memphis of white supremacy, racism, and black-on-black racism, whereas Black Memphis history is obscured and unacknowledged. I am Anthony F. Elmore, Memphis' first independent 35mm theatrical filmmaker. For many in Memphis, I am better known as the 5-time world kickboxing champion. You see, in 1987, I started production of Memphis' first independent 35mm theatrical film called The Contemporary Gladiator. This film was a semi-autobiographical story of my ascent to the pinnacle of the kickboxing world. I later learned that my 1988 film release, titled The Contemporary Gladiator, is not only the first 35mm theatrical film release in Memphis film history, my film is the first kickboxing film in world film history. You see, in 2019, Memphis celebrated its 200th bicentennial celebration. I realized that no one had ever produced a film regarding Black Memphis history. Per my civic duty, I spent months writing, producing, and creating the film 200 Years of Black Memphis History. I encountered not only white racism and discrimination, I encountered black-on-black racism from the administration of African-American Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris. You see, my film was not only not allowed to be a part of the Memphis bicentennial celebration, I came to learn and experienced a practice and culture in Memphis, whereas there's a practice and pattern in Memphis, whereas Black Memphis history is purposefully obscured. You see, most important, you must understand the concept of Southernism. You see, Southernism is a concept and practice, whereas history and culture is written in context of positive and cultural Southern values, whereas such exist today. You see, when speaking of Northerners or white who have non-Southern views, such people are called Yankees. You see, concepts like integration, equality, and various cultural practices are not Southern values and are not Southernism. You see, in terms of Nathan Bedford Forrest, he is written via Southernism as a hero. Via Southernism, the South did not lose the war, and Southern values are characterized in regards to history, whereas African Americans are taught to view history from the values of Southernism. Although history tells a different story, many African Americans accept the Southernism, whereas an African American who does not follow such values as Southernism are considered radical and unacceptable to some white people, and blacks who accept Southernism in Memphis, whereas many black leaders adhere to the ideas of Southernism to remain via favorable relationships with white people in Memphis. You see, moving outside the rim of Southernism make many whites in Memphis uncomfortable via speaking of the history outside of Southernism. Now, let's take this thing a bit further. You see, this video is titled Black Memphis History, Memphis Slave Capital of the World, the Great Negro Mart, and Oldest Public Building, a church next door. You see, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, whereas Black Memphis history is non-existent because it does not adhere to the concepts of Southernism. You see, look at this video of Calvary Episcopal Protestant Church. Now, this is noted as the first public building in Memphis and the first Episcopal church and Shelby County organized in 1832. You see, this isn't amazing that Memphis was founded May 22nd, 1819. This church is located at 102 2nd Street in Memphis, and it is at 2nd and Adams across from the Memphis Shelby County Courthouse. See, you can face the church and look to your left and you will see the Shelby County Courthouse. Simply turn down Adams Street directly east on Adams and to the rear of Calvary Protestant Church. See, look down the street at the large church on your left. That is St. Peter Catholic Church in Memphis, Tennessee. It is a Dominican parish established in 1840. These churches are historic examples of Southernism. Right in the middle of these churches existed the examples of the worst inhumanity against humanity in American history. You see, at 87 Adams Avenue existed the Great Negro Mart. Just do an online search of the Great Negro Mart. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard of Kmart and Walmart, unknown and untold to black people in America throughout various towns. There were Negro Marts. You see, Negro Marts were jails whereas black people could be purchased and via a supermarket retail concept. You see, many people in America know about Home Depot, and there is Office Depot in Memphis, Tennessee. They had the Negro Depot. See, look at these historic churches, and you had better know that they were built via slave labor. See, unknown and untold in Memphis, Tennessee is the fact that in 1850s, Memphis was the slave capital of the world. Now, let's take this thing further. See, I want you to look at an ad in the Commercial Appeal newspaper advertising Forest and Maple slave dealers. Now, this was located at 87 Adams Street, right behind the Calvary Church. You see, it says 87 Adams Street, Memphis, Tennessee, have constantly on hand the best selected assortment of field hands, house servants, and mechanics at their Negro Mart to be found in the city. They are daily receiving from Virginia, Kentucky, and Missouri fresh supplies of likely young Negroes. Negroes sold on commission, and the highest market price are paid for good stock. Their jail is capable of containing 300, and for comfort, neatness, and safety, it is the best arranged of any in the Union. Persons wishing to purchase are invited to examine their stock before purchasing elsewhere. They have on hand at present 50 likely young Negroes comprising field hands, mechanics, house and body servants, etc. You see, ladies and gentlemen, what you have here is the story of the Negro Mart, of how things were done. You see, let me give you an education that you would rarely learn. See, the world are more than likely not aware of the Negro Mart. You see, 100 years before there was Kmart and Walmart, there was the Negro Mart. Just look it up. Slave markets and slave jails in the United States were places used for the slave trade in the United States from the founding in 1776 until the total abolition of slavery. See, in 1865, slave pens, also known as slave jails, were used to temporarily hold enslaved people until they were sold, or hold fugitive slaves, and sometimes even to board slaves while traveling. Slave markets were any place where sellers and buyers gather to make deals. Now, what you see in the photograph here, you see the Forest Jail or the Negro Mart. This was a jail where you can come in and you can purchase slaves. You see, in Memphis, Tennessee, we learned about the Great Negro Mart. This building was located right behind Calvary Episcopal Protestant Church. You see, all of this ties in together. Now, what I want you to do is that in regards to Memphis history, you see, Whites wrote Memphis history in regards to Southernism. You see, this is the most noted via the Nathan Bedford Forrest marker placed in 1955. Now, the marker reads this. Now, Nathan Bedford Forrest was one of the most brutal and the most vicious men in American history, who was associated with the Ku Klux Klan, who was associated with the massacre at Fort Pillow. But this was written about Nathan Forrest, and the statue still exists to this very day in Memphis. It says, "In a house which stood here, this antebellum days lived Nathan Bedford Forrest, born in Middle Tennessee, 1821. He spent his early life on a Mississippi plantation following marriage in 1845. He came to Memphis where his business enterprise made him wealthy. He was for several terms. He was several terms an alderman, and he enlisted for the Confederacy June 14th, 1861. Now, this is the story of the way whites wrote about Nathan Bedford Forrest. They don't tell the story. You see, on June 17th, 2015, in Charleston, South Carolina, 9 people and one was injured during a Bible study. And these are black people at the Emmanuel African Methodist Church, the oldest black church in southern United States. You see, Dalen Roof, a 21-year-old white supremacist, had attended Bible study before opening fire. He found to have targeted members of the church because of his history and status. See, in December 2016, Roof espoused racial hatred in both a website and a manifesto where he published before the shooting, and in a journal which he wrote from the jail afterwards. On his website, Roof posted photos and emblems of which are associated with white supremacy, a photo of a Confederate flag. The shooting triggered debates about the modern display of the flag and other commemorations of the Confederacy. Following this murder, South Carolina General Assembly voted to remove the Confederate flag from the state capitol grounds, and a wave of Confederate monuments and memorials were moved throughout America. Whereas we come to Memphis, whereas right after that, we removed the Nathan Bedford Forrest statue. This happened in Memphis after Dalen Roof killed so many people. Now, let's move further. You see, in 2018, Calvary Protestant Episcopal Church installed a new marker acknowledging the Nathan Bedford slave trade. They made prayers and asked for forgiveness, and they were trying to say, we didn't know all of this was going on, we didn't know this was happening, and they tried to do what reconciliation. See, the marker does not tell the story. Now, what they did was they put up a marker, but this marker does not tell the story of Nathan Bedford Forrest or the slave trade in Memphis. You see, Memphis was the slave capital of the world, and as you can see here, the Bolton brothers at Front and Union Avenue, there was John A. Denny and Denny, 28 Front Street, sold dry goods, real estate, and Negroes. Anderson, D-Lap and Son, Solace Tracks, and William Witherspoon. 59 Adams Negro sales, 1855 Tom Dickens at Front and Union, and 1855 Isaac Newell and A.J. Cunningham opened the Negro Mart right at 69 Adams. This is what must be understood. The African slave trade was abolished March 2nd, 1807. This meant that it was illegal to import Africans to America. Africans were already in America and they were called Negroes or niggers. You see, whereas a retail system was established in America to sell Negroes just like any other commodity. The church was part of the plantation system of buying and selling Negroes. Memphis, Tennessee became the largest market of buying and selling Negroes in America. I'm Anthony F. Elmore in downtown Memphis on the mighty Mississippi River, bringing you another hot and fiery Black Memphis history lesson.